just a tiny piece, just today's tiny piece, right? Here is a short they made about me. I can't even watch it because of the filter they use where they hold the mouth open. The words I say, right? The words they use at the bottom. Dog whistle. And then we're going to watch the clip they took that from. Sorry, the video they took that from and took that clip from, completely out of context, of course. They say that's what we do, right? They say when like Allie's yelling at people, swearing, being ableist and racist, it's taken out of context. No, we can't play every single receipt every single time we mention any horrible thing that one Allie Priestley has done, right? This account, The Reluctant Messiah, which is trying to impersonate me and is being a bully account, is like trying to be a bully account while working on their CapCut skills. I mean, I'm all for beginners learning, getting up that curve, getting off Mount Stupid. But it's just me with ridiculous filters on. That's it. This one's a short. I'm going to play the short while I close my eyes, and then we'll continue on and watch the other one.
That are a different race that need being able to tell them apart, and I know that different race that need being able to tell them apart, and different race that need being able to tell them apart. And really hard time, unfortunately, with people that are a different race that need being able to tell them apart, and I know that different race that need being able to tell them apart, and different race.
So, even with them cutting it down and taking it completely out of context, unfortunately, this is my experience, right? Unfortunately. They happened to have taken that clip from my life story. And which video in my life story? My one on autism, ADHD, and my TBI. They took it from the one on my biggest disability and me talking about how they have impacted my life. Let's watch that.
All right, this is my story, the part of my story that's about my neurodiversity, which for me encompasses three main things: my ADD, my autism, and my brain damage, which I call my brain change. I have known I've had ADD my whole life, and I've dealt with it. I got through high school with high grades. I went to university and graduated because part of ADD is kind of waiting for this adrenaline to kick in, and then being able, for me anyway, and then being able to put all of this information in my head. And complex logical systems seem to stick more easily, but I was never able to study, to sit and actually like force information in if it wasn't already there. To be, I could. That's not true. I could memorize things, but for very short periods of time. So I've memorized the countries of the world, but they wouldn't stick. You know, they'd just be there for the test. Then I had my brain change, which wasn't a switch. It wasn't one day I was one way and one day another way. It's still changing. It's ever changing. It started happening after my first surgery when my brain swelled, and then after the radiation, there was a more definite change. And so I went from being able to put in information, from feeling like my job in the world was to learn everything so I could save the world. I had to go through a big period of depression because I was no longer able to do that. I couldn't learn. I could take a course, not pay much attention, and ace it before, because my not paying much attention was paying attention with my ADD. It was like I'd be doing like doodling or playing card games on the computer while everyone else was listening, and I would ace the test. To not being able to use adrenaline because it's poison for people with chronic fatigue syndrome, and not knowing how to put new information in without it, not being able to concentrate on words. Words would like, it just took way too much energy to read. And then autism, which both I've had my whole life looking back, but the difference of my ADD, which I've known I've had my whole life, and it's part of my childhood through adolescence identity, and I I figured how to work with it, so it didn't really get in the way. Versus figuring out I had autism at the age of 39 and being like, oh, that's what all of that was. Being able to look back with retrospect and see that piece of the differences. And I didn't mention this in my autism video, that one of the main reasons I did also figure out I had autism was that my child, to me, looks very neurodiverse, but yet isn't. She actually probably has ADD like everybody else in my family, but she doesn't have autism. Like she is a huge extrovert.
It's bothered me every time I've heard that. I meant to say that she's not neurotypical, but doesn't have autism. Okay.
Can read people's emotions, can, like, the things she puts together, I'm like, oh, so there was something she had that I had that she didn't. And as well as these brain changes, this neurological thing that happens. Like, I no longer, my memory isn't as good as it was. I can't recall words. I can't recall people, which was always kind of a problem. The like face blindness, which I think is a common trait in autistic people as well. And I've had that my whole life. I would get people confused.
So the context is about to come up. Sorry, I rewatched all the way to that point. I was like, I should have put a timestamp when this was more pertinent. A lot of autistic people have facial blindness to varying degrees. Again, Allie and her followers, including the autism mummies with autism, make fun of everybody else's autistic traits. Autism does not excuse racism in any capacity. That's, I don't think, what I am doing in what I'm about to say. I think I'm sharing my experience of what it is to live in this body and this brain. My kid doesn't have this trait.
In my class, I have a really hard time, unfortunately, with people that are a different race than me being able to tell them apart. And I know that to society makes you appear racist, but it's also, sorry, my brain doesn't do it. It's facial blindness. Like, I can't control what I can't control. I can apologize for it. I can try to make amends for it. I can explain it, but I can't control it. But I feel like everything that's part of my story, that is exactly what I was supposed to experience to do what I'm here to do. If it was just ADD and autism and I'd always been the same way, I'd have all of these same prejudices of like propping up people that are intelligent. Like, you too could be intelligent. What a horrible trait to not be intelligent. Now I look at intelligence like I look at looks. Like, yeah, life is easier if you look nice to a point. Life is easier if you're intelligent to a point. It's actually, I think it's just like show the opposite of that. But like, if you're the opposite of intelligent, then it's definitely harder. I get a job if your IQ is very low. It's very, very hard to get a job, keep a job, get relationships, keep relationships. And so I've experienced two very distinct brains. In fact, I experience them sometimes in the same day. My brain's never going to go back to where it was, where I can input all of this external information and feel like I can learn physics and chemistry and biology and economics and geography and world events all to like save the world. But if it hadn't changed, I wouldn't have had to sit with the knowledge I already knew and revamp it to figure out how we can create a world that works for everyone. If I hadn't had this experience of having both a brilliant mind and then in many areas a way less than brilliant mind, I wouldn't have the compassion and understanding for that. Right, this is not, your intelligence is a gift. You can't look down on other people who don't have it because they just don't have it. Like, their brain connections don't work the same as yours. And some of those brain connections we label as intelligence, and some of them we label as non-intelligence. And there are different types of intelligence, and most people aren't all of them. So there's ones that, again, we value more than others, but all of them are valuable. And it's your combination of intelligence that makes you valuable. Even if you're low on all of them or high on all of them, it's the combination of what you bring to the table that makes our neurodiversity the key that is going to help us save this planet and create a world of abundance and connection that works for everyone.
So that's just a tiny snippet. Why there is a Mean Girls is Sad Girls channel, why there is now this channel, where I will be going live when Allie goes live, and chronologically both what has happened over the past 6 months, to catch people up if they care. I suggest not caring. I suggest coming and caring about literally anything else, the underlying stuff that's being talked about. Doing solution raisings, doing peer coaching, or doing anything that calls to you to do. But these people, being Allie and her followers, let's not misconstrue that, use every label and project it onto us to not deal with their own bullshit, their own feelings, their own mental health crises. I get it. Your guys' friendship, who you're friends with, are not people that's safe to do that with. I can see the people I've formed friendships with are safe, good human beings. That doesn't mean they don't make mistakes, right? It means that they're honest and they own their shit when they make mistakes in relationship. That's not owed to internet strangers. That's not. And I feel like I'm getting really off topic. I'm going to just keep rambling on. So I'm going to end this here so that I can download it and upload it to the new channel.